Three families came to me this year with what sounded like completely different problems. It was a 4-year-old who was biting his mom every time he got frustrated, a 10-year-old who had started punching walls and calling her younger brother names that would make a sailor blush, and a 15-year-old boy whose parents said that they couldn't have a single conversation anymore without it becoming a screaming match. So, three different ages, three different families. And when I sat with each one, I found the exact same thing underneath: stuck frustration and tears that hadn't come yet. Today, I'm going to walk you through all three of these families, what I saw, what we did, and what shifted, because I think their stories are going to change the way you see your own child's hardest moments. Welcome to Rooted in Relationship When Managing Behavior Doesn't Work. I'm Rayleigh Pierce, PCI certified parent coach, and I'm here because I believe the answers to our biggest parenting struggles are not found in better strategies or tighter consequences. They're found in understanding what's happening underneath the behavior in the heart of our child. I come to this work as a student of Dr. Gordon Neufeld at the Neufeld Institute, a certified family coach with Kim John Payne of Simplicity Parenting, a screen strong ambassador, and a mama who has been deep in the trenches. So today's episode is called From Mad to Sad, the journey every child needs to take. And I promise you, by the time I'm done telling you about these three families, you're going to have a completely different lens for the aggression in your own home. So let me tell you about the first family. Mom comes to me, let's call her Sarah, and she's exhausted. Her 4-year-old, we'll call him Eli, had started biting. Not other kids at preschool, interestingly. Her, always her. When she said no to a cookie before dinner, when she turned off a cartoon, when she said it was time to leave the playground, he would go from 0 to 60, screaming and kicking, and then clamping down on her arm or her shoulder with his teeth. And Sarah, she had tried everything the internet and her pediatrician had told her to try. She'd done the firm voice and the we don't bite. She'd done timeouts. She'd done taking away his favorite toy as a consequence. She'd even tried a sticker chart for gentle hands. Nothing was working. In fact, she told me, and I could see the guilt in her eyes. It was getting worse. So here's what I told Sarah, and it's the thing I wish every parent of an aggressive preschooler could hear. Your child is not angry. He is frustrated. And that difference changes everything, guys. He is not angry. He is frustrated. Frustration is a primal emotion. It lives deep in the limbic system, the emotional brain. And every mammal on Earth experiences it. It's the brain's first responder. Something isn't working. Frustration says, change this. It's not about blame or revenge or injustice. It's simply the raw energy of, this is not working for me. And here's the kicker: the ages of 3 and 4 are the most aggressive period in the entire human lifespan. Yeah. Dr. Neufeld says it's a good thing small children have poor aim, or we'd all be in serious trouble, right? So, why does it come out as biting? Because Eli's brain has no brakes yet. the part of the brain that allows a child to feel two things at one time. I'm furious at mommy, and I love mommy, and I don't want to hurt her. That's the prefrontal cortex. And it doesn't even begin to come online until ages 5 to 7. Eli literally cannot hold the hug and the hit in the same moment. He's driving a car with a gas pedal and no brakes. That's such a great image, right? This little guy, he just has no brakes. So I asked Sarah one question. I said, when all this is over, when the tantrum burns itself out, does Eli ever cry? Not angry tears, sad tears. Does he ever melt into you and just weep? And she thought about it and said, yeah, actually, yes. Not every time, but when I can when I can stay calm enough, which isn't always, right? He does eventually collapse into me and just sob. And I said, that's the most important thing happening in your house right now. Because that movement from mad to sad is the journey. When Eli hits the wall of there's no more cookies, and that futility really sinks in. I mean, really sinks in. His brain sends a signal that moves him from attacking energy to tears. Dr. Neufeld calls these the tears of futility. And they are some of the most important tears a human being can cry. They're how the brain adapts to the things it cannot change. They're where resilience is actually born. Think of it like a traffic circle. Many of you that I coach will be like, here she goes on the traffic circle. Well, that's what Neufeld has given us, this great model, guys. So you'll hear it if you coach with me. Frustration comes barreling down the road, and it has to take an exit. Exit 1 on the traffic circle, change the thing that isn't working. Great. Problem solved. Exit 2, feel the sadness that it can't change and adapt. Exit 3, attack. Aggression is what happens when a child can't take exit 1 or 2, and the only road left is 3. So here's what we did with Sarah and Eli. First, we stopped all the consequences. Every time she took away a toy or put him in timeout, she was adding more frustration to a system that was already overloaded. Remember, the healthy child's medicine, confronting them with futility, becomes the stuck child's poison when the tears can't come. We were throwing gasoline on the fire. Second, I had Sarah practice what I call putting a spin on it. Instead of we don't bite, which she can't come alongside of, I had her say, oh, buddy, you are so frustrated. That frustration needs to come out. Same moment, completely different energy. Now she's not against him, right? She's not saying we don't bite. She's on the same side as him, looking at the frustration together. And third, this is the one that surprised her the most. I told her to stop trying to fix it in the storm, right when it was happening, and instead do the softening work in the quiet moments. The next day at bedtime, when things were cozy and close, she could say gently, that was hard yesterday, wasn't it? Really wanted that cookie and mommy said no. Just a little sadness, let a little sadness there, right? To kind of rise up, precipitate a tiny bit of disappointment out of the clouds. Not a lesson, not a lecture, just warmth, and a soft voice near his tender place. Within a few weeks, Sarah told me the biting had dropped dramatically, not because Eli had, quote unquote, learned his lesson, but because his tears were coming faster. Mad was moving to sad more easily. The traffic circle was working. Now, let me tell you about Maya. Maya's 10. Her mom came to me because Maya had started punching walls, slamming doors, and saying truly vicious things to her 7-year-old brother. Things like, I wish you were never born. This was a child who used to be sweet and compliant and easy. And mom was panicked, right? What happened to my daughter? Here's what I always want to know. What changed? Not in the behavior, but in the child's world. What shifted in her environment? Turns out Maya had started at a new school that fall. It was a bigger school, more social pressure. She'd had a best friend who suddenly like dropped her for a different group, and mom and dad had both taken on more demanding work schedules around that same time. So Maya was spending more afternoons with a sitter or doing homework alone. Do you hear it? More separation from her parents, a peer wound, rejection from a best friend, which for a child whose heart is still soft is devastatingly painful. And no safe place to land with all of it. Her world had gotten more frustrating. At the exact moment, she had less connection to help her process that. And here's the irony that Dr. Neufeld names so beautifully. Our greatest source of frustration is thwarted connection, not being able to be close to the people we love. And the greatest threat to that connection is aggression. So the very thing Maya is doing, exploding at her family, is pushing away the very people she needs most. That is the most basic human dilemma, from toddlerhood to the grave, right? Now, with a 10-year-old, we're past the biting stage. The attacking energy has gotten more sophisticated. It's become verbal, there's sarcasm. Yeah, sarcasm is attacking energy, guys. I want you to know that because I have a lot of sarcastic parents. And if you're listening and you're sarcastic, I'd really love for you to strive to tone that down, to actually recognize like you have some frustration that you're letting out through that sarcasm, right? That's what sarcasm is all about. Okay, so the attacking imagery has gotten more sophisticated. It's become verbal, it's sarcastic, cruelty, wall punching. And I could see that Maya's mom was starting to take it personally. Obviously, I mean, we do that as parents. We can't help it. We get so hurt by our kids, which is what, really gets in our way. Another little thing there about really striving not to take our kids' stuff personally. They're growing up. They're growing up. They're immature. They're the uncivilized guys. That's what you'll hear me say too, as your coach. Um, so she's taking it personally, and she, to pull away, right? She was pulling away. She told me, I don't even want to be around her when she's like this, obviously. I mean, who would? And so I said very gently, that is the most natural response in the world, and is the one thing that will make it worse. Oh my gosh, right? This is so hard. Because if aggression breaks the connection, then Maya has lost her safe harbor. And a child without a safe harbor can't cry. The tears have nowhere to go. The heart hardens, and a hardened heart cannot adapt. It's a vicious cycle. So with Maya's family, the work was different than with Eli's because with a preschooler, you're working the traffic circle in real time. With a tween, the deeper work is relational. We had to rebuild the bridge before we could help her cross it. I had mom carve out 15 minutes a day, just her and Maya, no agenda, no screen, no phone, no conversation about behavior, just togetherness. Sometimes they just sat and did a puzzle. Sometimes mom would brush Maya's hair. It sounds so small, but attachment lives in these tiny moments. We were restocking the attachment pantry that had gone bare. Then I taught mom to do something that felt deeply counterintuitive to bridge the aggression instead of punishing it. After a blow up, after Maya had screamed and slammed the door, mom would wait. She'd let the storm pass. And then later that evening, she would go to Maya's room and say something like, "That was a really hard afternoon. I know things have been frustrating lately. We're still good, you and me. We're still okay." She wasn't excusing the behavior. She was refusing to let the aggression break the relationship. And that is the most important thing a parent can do when aggression is in the room. One night, about 3 weeks in, mom was brushing Maya's hair and said softly, "I bet it hurt when Chloe stopped sitting with you at lunch." And Maya's face just crumbled. And she cried, really cried. Like, that just makes me, guys, that just makes me feel so, like, that gives me tears in my eyes, right? She just cried. Not angry tears, sad tears, the tears of futility about a friendship she couldn't fix. Isn't that so relatable? About a world that felt too big, about missing the way things used to be. And mom held her, and the wall punching started to slow down. That's the journey. Mad to sad. But Maya couldn't get there until someone made it safe enough to fall apart. As a Baha'i, this speaks to something I hold very close. The soul is not diminished by tests and difficulties. It is refined by them. But refinement requires a container. We are that container for our children. Okay, now the hardest one, the teenager, right? Uh, so Jake is 15. His dad came to me alone because Jake, you know, would not come. And I don't see teens, right? I just work with the parents. And he said, "I've lost my son. Everything is a fight. He won't talk to us. He won't eat with us. He's in his room with his headphones on. And the only time he comes out is to tell us how stupid our rules are. If I try to set a boundary, he explodes. If I try to talk to him, he says, 'Leave me alone.' I don't know who he is anymore." Just heartbreaking, guys. Heartbreaking stuff. Oh, and I could see in this dad's eyes something I see in a lot of parents of teens. He was starting to give up. He was thinking, maybe this is just who Jake is now. Maybe I should back off and let him figure it out. And I want to say this with all the tenderness in me, that instinct to back away from a prickly teenager is one of the most dangerous moves we can make. It feels like the teen doesn't want us anymore. It looks like independence, but underneath all that, leave me alone. There's almost always a child who is drowning in frustration and has lost the bridge back to the people who matter most. So I asked Dad the same question I always ask: is Jake moving from mad to sad? Have you seen tears, real sadness, real vulnerability from him in the last 6 months? Long silence. And then, no, not in a long time. That told me everything. Jake's heart had hardened. The vulnerability had become too much to bear, too much separation, too much frustration, probably too many experiences of things not working that he couldn't change. And his brain had done what brains do: it built a wall. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Leave me alone. Those aren't the words of a child who doesn't need you. Those are the words of a child who is defended against how much he does need you. Now, I'm not going to tell you this was a quick fix, guys. With a teenager whose heart has hardened, you're playing a long game. You are not working the traffic circle in real time like with a preschooler. You're not even doing the gentle hair brushing reconnection of the tween years here, because a 15-year-old will see right through anything that feels engineered. With Jake's dad, we focused on three things. First, stop the yelling matches. Every screaming fight is aggression on both sides. Two traffic circles going to the attack exit at the same time. Dad had his own frustration, his own futility, his own tears that hadn't come. I told him, you have your own traffic circle here. Your son's behavior is frustrating you. And if you haven't found your sadness about what's happening, the grief of losing the closeness you used to have, your frustration is going to keep coming out as anger too. That landed hard. Second, find one point of connection that isn't about behavior, expectations, or conflict. For Jake and his dad, it turned out to be the car. Jake needed rides, and in the car, there's no eye contact, there's no pressure, there's an end point. Dad started just being present in the car, sometimes in silence, sometimes commenting on something on the radio, not asking questions, not bringing up grades, just being there, being warm, being safe. You know, that warm invitation I've talked about in past episodes. If you haven't heard that, you need to go back and listen to that. Third, and this was the one that made Dad tear up in our session, I asked him to start bridging Jake's detachment instead of fighting it. When Jake said, leave me alone, instead of walking away wounded or escalating, Dad would say quietly, briefly, without needing a response, all right, I'm here when you're ready, and walk away. Not cold, not punishing, just a steady presence at the door. It took months. There were setbacks, but slowly Jake started lingering in the kitchen a little longer, started making small comments in the car, and excuse me. And one night, after Dad had simply just said something like, I miss hanging out with you, buddy, you know, not as a guilt trip, just as a true thing. Like, I miss hanging out with you. Jake paused in the door and his face did that thing, that softening. He didn't cry, but his voice got quiet and he just said, "Yeah, me too." That is the first crack in the wall. That is sad beginning to peek through the mad. And it is the beginning of everything. So, a biting preschooler, a wall punching tween, a shutdown teenager, three ages, three expressions, but the same story underneath. Aggression happens when a frustrated child encounters something they cannot change and fails to feel the sadness of it. That's the whole story. Aggression happens when adaptation doesn't. And our job as parents is not to stamp out the aggression, it's to help the tears come, to be the safe place where our children can move from mad to sad, to keep the relationship intact, even when the attacking energy is swirling, to soften the heart, theirs and our own. I think about this like a chrysalis. The caterpillar doesn't choose its own dissolution, but without it, there is no butterfly. The tears of futility are they're like a dissolution. The fighting, the insistence, the attacking, it melts into something new: acceptance, flexibility, resilience. And that transformation is not something we do to our children, it's something we hold them through. So here's what I want you to carry into your week. When you see aggression, say to yourself, something isn't working for this child and the tears haven't come yet. That one reframe will change your entire posture. Name the frustration, not the behavior. You're so frustrated right now. Opens a door. You're being mean. Slams it shut. Ask yourself, is my child moving from mad to sad? If yes, even slowly, even messily, you're on the right track. If no, if the tears seem stuck or gone, back off the consequences. They're making it worse. Focus on connection first. Do the tender work in the quiet moments, not in the storms. A gentle word the next day, a story at bedtime, a soft, that was hard, wasn't it? When you're close. And above all, don't let the aggression break your bond. Bridge it. Come back after the hard moments and say, we're still good. We're still okay. Because your child needs to know that their worst moments are not too much for the relationship to hold. Dr. Neufeld says that when the futility sinks in, when there's nothing left to do but cry, whatever we cannot change is meant to change us. That is the story of human adaptation. It's as true for a 4-year-old who can't have a cookie as it is for a 15-year-old who's lost his way back to his dad. From mad to sad, that's the journey. And you, dear parent, are the one who makes it possible. If these stories sounded like your family, if you heard your child in Eli or Maya or Jake, I want you to know that you do not have to figure this out alone. I offer parenting practice subscriptions with both one-on-one coaching, and I have another one that's a group format coming up. So there's something that fits wherever you are in terms of what you need and what works for your budget. Because every parent deserves someone in their corner who sees underneath the behavior. You can find me at innerlifeparenting.com, and I'm also available for, if you just want to email me and connect. and ask a question. I'm happy to do that. And then we can perhaps have a free clarity session together and see if we might be able to work together. Come find me. Let's do this work together. If this episode helped you, would you share it with a parent who needs it? Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do for another family is change the question from, how do I stop this behavior, to what does this child need? Until next time, I'm Rayleigh Pierce. Stay soft, stay close, and trust the tears.